Hello there, and welcome to the Dozing Explorer. I'm so glad you found this quiet harbor in the vastness of the night. There is a soft, peaceful space waiting here just for you, a place to let the questions and worries of the day gently dissolve like sugar in warm water. Settle in and let your body feel the support beneath it. Let each breath be a little slower, a little deeper than the one before it. A quiet tide rising and falling within you. Tonight, our journey will not be to a specific destination, but rather a gentle drift into a great and profound mystery. We will not be seeking answers or solving puzzles, but simply wandering through the vast, starlit quiet of the Fermi Paradox. We will listen not for a signal, but to the silence itself. Think of it as walking through an immense and beautiful library after closing time, where all the books are asleep on their shelves and the only sound is the gentle hum of the building's own breath. This is not a lecture, but a lullaby about the quiet cosmos. We will imagine our galaxy as a vast, dark forest on a moonless night, filled with a billion silent trees, and we will simply listen to the stillness between them. We will float through the gentle possibilities for this quiet, wondering if perhaps other civilizations are like ancient sleeping whales, dreaming in the deep, dark oceans of their own worlds. We will explore the idea that the universe is not empty, but perhaps just very, very shy, whispering its secrets in a language too subtle for our instruments to yet hear. The great question of where is everybody will not be a source of concern, but a gentle, wondering whisper, a soft note held in the vast symphony of the night. And just before we begin to drift, if these quiet explorations and gentle wonderings help you to find your rest, you might consider subscribing. It is a simple, silent way to help other weary travelers find this peaceful corner of the universe, allowing our quiet community of explorers to grow. There is no need to do anything now. It is just a soft thought to hold for a moment, and then to let it go, like a feather on the breeze. For now, your only task is to rest. There is nothing you need to know, nothing you need to solve. You don't need to follow every word or understand every concept. Let my voice simply be a gentle current, a soft rhythm to accompany your own breathing. If your mind wanders, that is perfectly fine. Let it drift among the stars. If you fall asleep, that is wonderful. Just allow yourself to soften, to become heavy and peaceful as our quiet journey into the great silence begins. Our galaxy is a vast and shimmering island of stars, so immense that it almost defies comprehension. If you were to imagine our entire solar system out to the farthest planet as a single tiny grain of sand, the Milky Way galaxy would be a continent wider than North America. It is a swirling city of between 100 and 400 billion stars, each one a potential sun, a potential hearth for a family of worlds. Light itself, the fastest thing in the universe, takes 100,000 years just to cross from one side to the other. We reside in a quiet, spiral arm of this colossal structure, like a single house on a quiet suburban street in a country with billions of homes. The sheer, silent scale of it all is the first and most gentle answer to the Great Quiet, a place so vast that even a million shouting voices could be lost like whispers in a boundless desert. The silence may not be empty, but simply a consequence of a truly enormous room. There is a gentle question disguised as an equation that helps us dream about this topic. It is called the Drake equation, but it is less a piece of mathematics and more of a poem about possibility. It doesn't give a firm answer, but rather it provides a framework for our wonder. It invites us to consider, one by one, the factors that might lead to a civilization we could talk to, like counting the petals on a cosmic flower. It asks how many stars are born each year, how many of those have planets, how many of those planets might be a gentle home for life, and so on, with each step becoming a softer and more uncertain guess. It is a tool not for calculation, but for organizing our humility, showing us all the quiet uncertainties that lie between a sky full of stars and a sky full of conversation. It is a gentle reminder that the universe is filled with many beautiful maybes. 3. The age of the universe is a deep, slow-moving river, far deeper than we can easily imagine. Our entire recorded human history, from the first cave paintings to this very moment, is like a single shimmering drop in this great river of time. The universe has been here for nearly 14 billion years, and civilizations could have risen, lived out their entire glorious histories, and faded back into cosmic dust billions of years before our Earth was even formed. It is entirely possible that the galaxy has been home to countless empires, whose songs were sung and whose stories were told in an age so ancient that their light has long since passed us by. We might be standing on the riverbank long after the great ships have sailed, or perhaps long before the first ones are due to be built. The great silence might just be the quiet of an afternoon, between the morning's activities and the evening's gatherings. 4. It may be that a world like ours is an exceptionally precious and rare jewel. The hypothesis known as rare Earth suggests that the conditions needed for complex life to arise and flourish are far more delicate and specific than we might think.
It requires a planet of just the right size, with a molten core to generate a protective magnetic shield and a large moon to gently stabilize its tilt and create the tides. It needs to be in a quiet, safe orbit around a stable, long-lived star, far from the violent radiation of the galactic core. It may even need the gentle nudging of plate tectonics to cycle nutrients and regulate the climate. From this perspective, the silence of the cosmos is not a sign of emptiness, but a testament to how fortunate we are. We are not living in a common garden, but perhaps in a single, perfect greenhouse, a rare and beautiful terrarium floating in the vastness of space. Perhaps we are listening for a song played on a piano, while the universe composes its music on instruments we cannot imagine. We are profoundly shaped by our own biology, assuming that life elsewhere must be like us, based on carbon and water, and existing in a form we would recognize as life. But the cosmos is a place of endless creativity. Imagine life that is not biological at all, but vast, slow-thinking crystalline entities growing on a world without a sun. Imagine intelligent, shimmering clouds of plasma living within the vibrant chaos of a nebula, their thoughts as slow as the turning of galaxies. They would not build radios or spaceships, and their concerns would be as alien to us as ours would be to them. The silence we perceive could be the silence of a room filled with beings who communicate through changing gravity or shifting light, or a language woven into the fabric of space-time itself. We may be surrounded by a forest of life, but we are listening for the sound of falling trees and missing the silent, steady growth of the roots. The universe may be teeming with life, but it may be a universe of silent gardens, not bustling cities. We often assume that once life begins, it is on an inevitable journey towards intelligence and technology, like a train on a track. But on our own world, life has existed for billions of years, while tool-using intelligence is a very recent and perhaps fragile experiment. Evolution does not have a goal, it simply finds what works. A creature that is perfectly adapted to its environment, like a deep-sea jellyfish or a simple bacterium, has no need to develop philosophy or build radio telescopes. It is possible that intelligence, like ours, is not a common pinnacle of evolution, but a strange and rare branching of the tree of life, a beautiful and perhaps temporary anomaly. The cosmos might be filled with worlds that are vibrant with life, but it is a life that is content to swim and crawl and fly without ever feeling the need to look up and shout at the stars. 7. Perhaps the great silence we observe is not an absence, but a presence of great wisdom. Imagine a vast, dark forest filled with unseen hunters. A wise creature does not shout its location for all to hear. In this cosmic analogy, known as the dark forest hypothesis, it is suggested that civilizations, once they become aware of the true scale and potential dangers of the universe, adopt a strategy of hiding. They learn to conceal their presence, to muffle their radio signals, and to live quietly within their own solar systems. To broadcast loudly into the unknown is a profound and perhaps foolish risk. In this view, the silence is a sign of intelligence, not a lack of it. It is a shared secret among the wise, a mutual understanding that the safest way to exist in a vast and unknown place is to be very, very still. We, in our technological infancy, are like a lost child shouting in the woods, and the silence is the sound of the older, wiser inhabitants holding their breath. 8. It may be that our world and our civilization are being gently and quietly observed. The zoo hypothesis proposes a wonderfully peaceful idea, that we are living within a vast cosmic nature preserve. Advanced civilizations may have agreed to leave worlds like Earth undisturbed, to allow life and culture to develop naturally without interference. They watch us from a respectful distance, the way we might watch a rare bird's nest from a hidden blind, careful not to disturb the delicate process unfolding within. Our planet would be a protected heritage site, a place of wonder for the rest of the galaxy. The reason we see no one is because they are profoundly good at hiding, respecting a universal principle of non-intervention. The silence is not one of neglect, but of profound and careful attention. 9. The silence could be the sound of a promise being kept. A common theme in our own stories of exploration is the idea of a prime directive, a rule of non-interference with less developed cultures. An ancient, wise, and compassionate civilization might understand that contact would irrevocably change us, that it could disrupt our art, our science, our religions, and our natural development in ways we cannot predict. They might see our world as a delicate, nascent thing, and their greatest act of kindness is to allow us to find our own way, to solve our own problems, and to reach for the stars on our own terms. They do not answer our calls because they believe it is for our own good. The silence, in this view, is not emptiness, but a form of gentle, paternalistic protection, a quiet act of love. 10. We might be standing in the middle of a bustling cosmic conversation, but we have brought the wrong kind of telephone. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence has focused almost exclusively on radio waves, a technology that is barely a century old for us. It is like trying to understand a global internet network by only listening for the sound of telegraph clicks. An advanced civilization may have graduated to forms of communication that are far more efficient and subtle. They might encode their messages in the quantum spin of neutrinos, which pass through planets as if they were ghosts. They might be sending signals using modulated gravitational waves, the very ripples in space-time we have only just learned to detect. The universe might be full of their signals, a constant stream of art and science and conversation, but it is all passing through us, completely unnoticed, because we are still tuned to the wrong channel. 11. Perhaps the ultimate journey for a mature civilization is not outward into space, but inward into mind. It is possible that a society, once it reaches a certain technological peak, discovers that the universe within a computer is infinitely more vast and interesting than the physical one outside. They might build immense, planet-sized computers, matryoshka brains, that create simulated realities of unimaginable richness and complexity. Inside these worlds, they could live for eons, exploring every possible art, science, and philosophy. From the outside, their solar system would grow quiet. They would cease to expand, cease to broadcast, and simply draw a veil of silence around their home as they explored inner space. The reason we don't see galactic empires is that the greatest empire is the one you can build within your own mind. The silence is the sound of a civilization that has closed its eyes to dream. 12. The galaxy might be filled with intelligent life that is forever trapped in a beautiful prison of water. Many of the potentially habitable worlds in our galaxy might be ocean worlds, planets covered entirely by a deep, global ocean, perhaps with a thick shell of ice on the surface. Life could thrive in these dark, warm oceans, perhaps evolving great intelligence in the crushing pressure of the deep. But for such a civilization, the very concept of the stars would be an impossible dream.
they would live their entire existence without ever seeing the sun or the night sky. They could never discover fire, never smelt metal, never build electronics. They could be brilliant poets, philosophers, and mathematicians, but they would be forever confined to their aquatic world, their voices unable to ever reach beyond their own watery atmosphere. The silence of the cosmos may be filled with the unheard songs of these ocean-bound minds. 13. The path from simple life to a starfaring civilization might contain a great and gentle threshold. This idea, known as the Great Filter, suggests that there is some step in the development of life that is incredibly difficult to overcome. This filter could be in our past. Perhaps the initial spark of life itself is an almost impossibly rare event, and we are one of the few to have passed it. Or the filter could be in our future, a challenge that awaits all technological civilizations. It might not be a violent cataclysm, but a subtle and profound transformation. Perhaps it is the challenge of managing a planet's resources sustainably, or the moment a society merges with its own technology. It is a single, quiet step, so difficult that almost no one ever makes it across. The silence is the sound of a universe full of hopefuls standing before a gate that is almost impossible to open. 14. We may not be late to the party, but rather we may be the very first ones to arrive. The universe, while ancient, may have only recently become a hospitable place for life as we know it. For its first several billion years, the cosmos was a much more violent place, filled with quasars and exploding stars that bathed young galaxies in sterilizing radiation. It may be that only now, in this calmer and more mature era of the universe's life, have things settled down enough for stable, long-term biology to take hold. We could be one of the very first civilizations to emerge in this new cosmic spring. If this is true, then the silence is not an eternal mystery, but a temporary condition. We are not alone, but merely early, the first flowers to bloom in a garden that will one day be full of life. The silence is the quiet of the dawn, just before the chorus begins. 15. The reason we hear nothing might be the same reason a person walking through a vast jungle does not stop to have a conversation with a single ant. An ancient, galaxy-spanning civilization would be so profoundly advanced that we might be completely beneath their notice, or at least beneath their interest. Their thoughts might operate on timescales of millennia. Their projects might involve sculpting entire star clusters. Our brief, frantic lives and our simple radio broadcasts might be as uninteresting to them as the chemical trails of an ant colony are to us. This is not a malicious neglect, but simply the unbridgeable gulf of scale and complexity. The silence we perceive is not a statement about our worth, but a simple consequence of the unimaginable difference in perspective between a mayfly and a mountain. 16. The stars are separated by an ocean of distance so profound it is almost a form of infinity. Our nearest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. With our fastest current spacecraft, it would take us over 70,000 years to make that journey. To send a simple two-way message, a hello and a hello back, would take nearly 9 years. And that is our very closest neighbor. To communicate with a civilization on the other side of our galaxy would require a patience that transcends generations, a conversation where each sentence takes 200,000 years to be spoken and heard. The galaxy may be full of civilizations, but they are like lonely lighthouse keepers on islands separated by impassable seas. They may be flashing their lights, but the distances are too great for the signals to be easily seen. The silence is the sound of a distance too vast to cross. 17. The night sky is a time machine, and the message we are waiting for may simply be on its way. Because light travels at a finite speed, when we look at a star 1,000 light-years away, we are seeing it as it was 1,000 years ago. Imagine a civilization on that star that developed radio technology just 900 years ago. From our perspective, their planet is still silent.
The first radio waves they ever produced are still 100 years away from reaching our telescopes. The entire sphere of our listening, the bubble of space from which we could have received a signal, is only about 100 light-years in radius. This is a tiny, insignificant corner of our vast galaxy. It is entirely possible, even probable, that the sky is filled with the broadcasts of thousands of civilizations, their signals traveling towards us like patient, silent messengers. The silence is simply the quiet of the journey before the news has arrived. 18. It may be that the most advanced civilizations are sleeping through our current cosmic era. The estivation hypothesis suggests a far-thinking and patient reason for the silence. As the universe evolves, the background temperature drops. A fundamental law of physics states that computation becomes exponentially more efficient at colder temperatures. Therefore, a civilization that wants to achieve the most thought, the most art, the most experience would be wise to wait. They might have reached their technological peak billions of years ago and then collectively decided to enter a long period of dormancy, like a cosmic hibernation. They are sleeping, waiting for the far, far future when the universe is colder and their computers can run for trillions of years, accomplishing feats of mind we cannot dream of. We are living in the warm, bright, inefficient summer of the universe, and the old ones are simply waiting for the cool, quiet autumn.
The universe may be a place where life is as common as sand, but technological intelligence is as rare as a perfect pearl. It is one thing for simple microbial life to begin in the warm chemical soup of a young planet. Such life may be incredibly robust and widespread, perhaps existing on billions of worlds in our galaxy alone. But the journey from a single cell to a complex, multicellular organism is a long and arduous one, filled with countless evolutionary hurdles. And the journey from a complex animal to one that builds radio telescopes is perhaps even more fraught with difficulty. So the sky might be silent not because life is rare, but because the specific kind of life that makes noise is the true anomaly. The galaxy could be a great, thriving ecosystem of bacteria, algae, and simple creatures, and we are just the first and only ones to have built a microphone. 20. Perhaps a truly advanced civilization would have no need for outward expansion or loud proclamation. Imagine a society that has conquered disease, poverty, and conflict. They have mastered energy and matter and can create anything they need within their own solar system. What would such a culture value? Perhaps they would value quiet contemplation, artistic creation, and the exploration of consciousness. They might see the galaxy not as a territory to be conquered, but as a beautiful painting to be admired. Their greatest achievement would be a state of perfect, sustainable balance and inner peace. They would have no desire to shout their presence, no need for the resources of other stars. They would be the cosmic equivalent of a secluded monastery, a society of quiet gardeners, content to cultivate their own inner and outer worlds. The silence is the sound of contentment. 21. The entire paradox is built upon a quiet and unexamined assumption about how others might behave. We, as a young, expansive, and sometimes noisy species, project our own desires onto the cosmos. We assume that other civilizations would naturally want to expand, to colonize, to broadcast their existence as widely as possible. But this is a reflection of our own evolutionary history and culture, not a universal law. An alien intelligence, born in a different environment with a different history, might have motivations that are completely opaque to us. They might value community over individuality, sustainability over growth, silence over communication. The Fermi Paradox is a mirror, and when we ask, "Where is everybody?" we are perhaps only revealing our own expectations of what everybody should be like. The silence may be a sign that the universe is simply not interested in the things we think are important. 22. The messages we are listening for may be dissolving into whispers long before they reach us. Radio waves, like the ripples from a stone dropped in a pond, spread out and become weaker as they travel. The laws of physics dictate that the strength of a signal decreases with the square of the distance.
A broadcast that is strong and clear near its home star would become an incredibly faint, almost undetectable murmur after traveling for hundreds or thousands of light years. To hear such a faint whisper across the vastness of space, we would need to be listening with an impossibly large telescope, pointed at exactly the right star, at exactly the right time, and tuned to exactly the right frequency. The silence may be an illusion created by the simple, gentle physics of distance. The sky could be full of murmurs, but we can only hear the shouts, and no one may be shouting. We have been listening for only the briefest moment in cosmic time. Our search for extraterrestrial radio signals began in earnest only about 60 years ago. Our galaxy is over 10 billion years old. If the history of the galaxy were compressed into a single calendar year, our entire search for signals would have begun in the last 1/10 of a second of New Year's Eve. To expect to hear something in this infinitesimal sliver of time is perhaps the ultimate form of impatience. It is like opening a window for a single second on a quiet night and concluding that the world is completely silent. The great conversation of the cosmos may be happening all around us, but we have only just put our ear to the door. The silence is simply the sound of our own very, very recent arrival. 24. The most common form of life in the universe may be a silent green carpet. On our own planet, for the vast majority of its history, life was purely microbial. It was a world of bacteria, algae, and archaea, quietly transforming the atmosphere and preparing the way for the complex life that would follow. It is very possible that this is the galactic norm. The universe could be filled with Genesis worlds, planets where life has begun but has not progressed beyond this simple microbial stage. From a distance, these worlds would be indistinguishable from dead planets, their quiet biological activity completely invisible to our telescopes. They would be alive, but they would have no technology, no cities, no signals. The galaxy could be a vast nursery, filled with countless cradles of simple life, all slumbering in a deep and silent dream. 25. It is possible that our solar system is under a form of gentle cosmic quarantine. This idea suggests that there might be something unique or even dangerous about life on Earth. Perhaps the aggressive, expansive nature of our form of life is seen as a potential threat by a galactic community that values peace and stability. They might have placed a quiet, invisible barrier around our solar system, a do not disturb sign, to keep our potentially disruptive influence contained until we mature as a species. This is not a prison, but a form of protective isolation, for them and perhaps for us. The silence we experience is the result of a deliberate and carefully maintained separation, a quiet cordon sanitaire around a world that is deemed too unpredictable. 26. We have been searching for life in the most obvious places, but the universe may be hiding it in the most surprising ones. We look for life on Earth-like planets, orbiting sun-like stars. But life might be far more adaptable and strange. Could there be creatures that live in the swirling, cold atmospheres of gas giants? Great biological airships floating on the methane winds? Could there be life based on silicon, with slow, crystalline thoughts, living on worlds baked by a searing sun? Some have even speculated about life existing in the most extreme environments imaginable, within the glowing plasma on the surface of a star, or even in the hearts of cold, dark interstellar clouds, their metabolism slowed to a crawl over millions of years. The reason we find no one on the worlds we are looking at is that we are searching in the neat, tidy gardens, while the real life is flourishing in the deep, wild, and untamed jungles. 27. Our solar system may be located in a very quiet, rural part of the galaxy. Just as Earth has dense, bustling cities and vast, sparsely populated countryside, so too might the Milky Way. The galactic center is a chaotic and energetic place, while the spiral arms are the busier suburbs. Our sun, however, is located in a smaller, more minor spur of a spiral arm, in a region with a lower density of stars. We might be living in the cosmic equivalent of a quiet, pastoral backwater,
far from the main trade routes and communication hubs of a galactic civilization. The silence we perceive is simply the peace and quiet of the countryside. The great galactic cities may be blazing with light and buzzing with conversation, but we are too far out in the periphery to see or hear them clearly. The sheer difficulty of crossing the space between stars may be a fundamental and permanent barrier. We watch stories of spaceships effortlessly zipping between stars, but the reality is far more daunting. It requires unimaginable amounts of energy, protection from decades of cosmic radiation, and solutions to countless engineering problems we haven't even conceived of yet. It may be that interstellar travel is so difficult, so expensive, and so dangerous that almost no civilization ever truly bothers to attempt it on a grand scale. Every solar system might be a permanent, isolated island. Civilizations may rise and fall, living out their entire histories within the confines of their own planetary system, content with the vast resources available to them at home. The silence is the sound of a billion locked doors, to which no one has yet found a key. 29. It is a strange and wondrous possibility that they are all around us, but are made of a substance we cannot see or touch. The vast majority of the matter in our universe is not the familiar stuff of atoms and molecules that makes up our world. It is a mysterious, invisible substance we call dark matter. We only know it exists because of its gravitational pull on the stars and galaxies. It is entirely possible that this dark matter is not just simple, inert particles, but has its own complex chemistry, its own dark atoms and molecules. It could have formed its own dark stars, dark planets, and even its own forms of dark life. A vast, silent, and invisible civilization made of this material could be coexisting with us, right here, right now, in this very room. We would pass through them, and they through us, like ghosts, each completely unaware of the other's existence. 30. Perhaps the destiny of an intelligent species is not to conquer physical space, but to transcend it. The transcension hypothesis suggests that mature civilizations invariably discover how to manipulate space-time in a profound way, allowing them to move into other higher dimensions. They might create their own pocket universes, tiny realities with custom-built laws of physics, perfect for their needs. From our perspective, they would simply vanish. Their star system would go quiet as they packed up their entire civilization and moved to a new and better plane of existence, leaving the old, messy, three-dimensional universe behind. The great silence is the sound of an empty house after the occupants have moved to a much better neighborhood, a place whose address we cannot even comprehend. 31. It is a sad and gentle thought that a civilization's own cleverness might be its greatest challenge. The very same technological progress that allows a species to search for others in the cosmos also gives it the power to destroy itself. From nuclear weapons to climate change to runaway artificial intelligence, the path of a young technological society is fraught with self-imposed perils. It might be that this is a near universal filter, a great and difficult test of wisdom and foresight. Perhaps very few species manage to navigate this delicate adolescent phase of their development. The silence we hear could be the quiet aftermath of 1,000 brilliant flashes, the sound of civilizations that burned brightly, but all too briefly before gently extinguishing their own flame. The desire to expand across the galaxy may be a profound misunderstanding of wealth and resources. A single solar system is a place of almost unimaginable abundance. A civilization that masters asteroid mining and fusion energy would have access to raw materials and power equivalent to trillions of Earths, enough to sustain a massive population for billions of years. With such wealth at home, why undertake the incredibly difficult and dangerous task of interstellar colonization? The urge to expand might be a primitive biological impulse that mature technological civilizations learn to overcome. They may find that the true meaning of existence is not in endless growth, but in living well within the beautiful and bountiful home they already have. The silence is the quiet hum of a civilization that has everything it could ever want right where it is. 33. The idea that a civilization would expand exponentially forever may be a failure of imagination. We see exponential growth in bacteria in a petri dish, but in any finite system, such growth always comes to an end. An ancient, wise culture would surely understand this. They might grow and expand for a time, but then reach a state of equilibrium, a stable and sustainable existence that could last for eons. They would prioritize longevity over speed, quality over quantity. Their civilization would not be a raging fire, consuming everything in its path, but a great and ancient tree, growing slowly and living for millennia in a state of perfect balance with its surroundings. We see no evidence of them because we are looking for the signs of a wildfire when we should be looking for the quiet, patient presence of a forest. 34. It is entirely possible that we are like someone standing by the ocean listening for the sound of a whisper while a great whale sings a beautiful, deep song just beneath the waves. We are listening for very specific kinds of signals, narrowband, repeating radio broadcasts. This is what we imagine another civilization like us would produce. But an alien intelligence might communicate in ways that we would dismiss as simple background noise. Their signals could be incredibly complex and data-rich, spread over a huge range of frequencies, making them look like the gentle, random hiss of the cosmos. We might have already detected dozens of alien communications, but our computers have filtered them out, classifying them as natural astrophysical phenomena.
The silence is not an absence of signals, but an inability for now to recognize the music in the noise. 35. The galactic quiet could be the result of a long-ago event that established a set of gentle rules. Imagine that billions of years in the past, a single ancient civilization, the first ones, expanded throughout the galaxy. They did not conquer or destroy, but instead, they may have left behind a legacy. This legacy could be a network of quiet, self-replicating probes whose only task is to act as guardians or sentinels. They might gently discourage young, noisy civilizations from becoming too disruptive, perhaps by sending a simple message, "Be quiet, you are not ready." Or they may have seeded the galaxy with the building blocks of life and are now simply watching their great experiment unfold. The silence is a sign of an old and established order, a quiet peace that is being gently and passively maintained by an intelligence so ancient it has become a law of nature. 36. The radio dial we are scanning is just one tiny sliver of a vast and unexplored continent. The electromagnetic spectrum, which includes everything from radio waves to microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, and gamma rays, is immense. Our dedicated search for signals has focused on a very small, quiet part of the radio band, a cosmic watering hole where we think conversation might be easiest. This is like searching for a friend in the entire world by only looking in one specific small town. A civilization could be broadcasting with incredible power using high-frequency lasers or some other part of the spectrum that we are not yet equipped to monitor systematically. The silence we perceive is the silence of our own limited search, the quiet of all the countless places we have not yet thought to look. 37. Perhaps we live in a universe where the most common value among the wise is a love of stillness.
In many of our own oldest spiritual traditions, silence is seen not as an emptiness, but as a fullness, a state of profound connection and peace. It is possible that mature civilizations come to a similar conclusion on a cosmic scale. They might discover that the greatest truths are found not in shouting across the void, but in listening to the quiet, internal universe of consciousness. They might see the physical cosmos as a beautiful but ultimately transient stage, and their primary focus would be on a kind of shared, silent meditation. The galaxy would be their temple, and the quiet would be their form of prayer. The great silence is not a mystery to be solved, but a state of being to be respected. 38. The gentle and stable environment of our Earth may be the result of a very fortunate and protected position. Our solar system appears to be on a particularly calm and circular orbit around the galactic center, known as the galactic co-rotation circle. This means we rarely pass through the dense and chaotic spiral arms, where nearby supernovae and gravitational disruptions are much more common. For billions of years, our world has been allowed to develop in a relatively peaceful harbor, sheltered from the galaxy's worst storms. It may be that very few star systems have such a quiet ride, and that life on most other worlds is regularly disrupted before it can develop complexity. Our existence might be a product of this cosmic good fortune. The silence is the sound of 1,000 other worlds that were not so lucky in their cosmic geography. 39. Our solar system has a great and silent guardian, a colossal planet that shields us from harm. Jupiter, with its immense gravitational field, acts as a cosmic bouncer for the inner solar system. It deflects or captures a huge number of comets and asteroids that would otherwise be on a collision course with Earth. For billions of years, our world has been allowed to develop in a relatively peaceful harbor, sheltered from the galaxy's worst storms. It may be that very few star systems have such a quiet ride, and that life on most other worlds is regularly disrupted before it can develop complexity. Our existence might be a product of this cosmic good fortune. The silence is the sound of 1,000 other worlds that were not so lucky in their cosmic geography. 39. Our solar system has a great and silent guardian, a colossal planet that shields us from harm. Jupiter, with its immense gravitational field, acts as a cosmic bouncer for the inner solar system. It deflects or captures a huge number of comets and asteroids that would otherwise be on a collision course with Earth.
Without Jupiter's protective presence, our planet would have been subjected to a constant and devastating bombardment, making it nearly impossible for complex life to have survived and evolved. The existence of a stable, giant planet in just the right orbit might be another rare requirement for a habitable world. The silence of the cosmos could be filled with the echoes of life on other worlds, extinguished long ago because they lacked such a gentle, giant protector. 40. Our world dances with a companion that holds it in a steady and life-giving embrace. Our moon is unusually large for a planet of our size, and its gravitational influence is profound. It stabilizes the Earth's axial tilt, preventing our planet from wobbling chaotically on its axis. This gives us a stable, predictable climate with regular seasons, a condition that has been crucial for the evolution of complex life. Most planets may not have such a large, stabilizing moon, and their climates might be subject to wild, catastrophic swings over thousands of years. The silent sky may be a sky full of worlds where life is constantly struggling to adapt to a violently unpredictable climate. Our moon allows our world to have a long, quiet, and stable breath, a luxury that may be exceptionally rare. 41. The kind of star that makes the best home may also be the quietest and most unassuming. We tend to focus our search on stars like our sun, but many stars are much more violent and unpredictable, especially the small, dim red dwarfs. While they are the most common type of star in the galaxy, they are known for flaring violently, bathing their nearby planets in lethal radiation. It could be that life can only truly flourish in the gentle, steady light of a very specific type of calm, middle-aged star. These quiet stars might be relatively rare and spaced very far apart from one another. We hear no one because the only worlds with life are islands of tranquility separated by vast oceans of stellar violence and chaos. 42. The civilizations of the galaxy may be like beautiful, intricate ships in bottles. The sheer energy and resources required for interstellar travel may mean that every civilization is, for all practical purposes, permanently confined to its home solar system. They can flourish for billions of years, creating art and science of unimaginable beauty, but they can never leave their island. They can send messages out into the void, but with no guarantee of a reply for tens of thousands of years, it might seem like a pointless endeavor. The galaxy, in this view, is not a potential empire to be colonized, but an archipelago of isolated islands of life. The silence is the profound and eternal quiet of the vast, uncrossable ocean that separates every single one of them. 43. It is a strange and deeply calming thought that the reason for the silence is that this reality is not what it seems.
The planetarium hypothesis, or simulation theory, suggests that our perceived universe is a constructed reality, a flawless simulation created by a far more advanced intelligence. In this scenario, the simulation might be designed specifically for us, or we might be just one of many programs running within it. The universe appears empty of other life because the simulation has not been programmed to include it. The vast, silent stars are not real places, but a beautiful, painted backdrop designed to give us a sense of scale and wonder. The silence is not a mystery, but a deliberate feature of our world's design, a quiet canvas on which our own story is meant to be painted. The galaxy could be a vibrant jungle filled with countless forms of life that simply never chose the path of technology. On Earth, we see millions of species that are incredibly successful without ever needing to build a machine. Whales and dolphins have complex social structures and communication, but they do not forge metal. Ants and bees build colossal, intricate societies, but they do not study the stars. It could be that technology is a very rare and perhaps even unnatural path for life to take. The galaxy might be teeming with biological wonders, sentient plants, hive minds, creatures of incredible grace and beauty that have simply followed a different evolutionary road. We hear nothing because we are listening for the sound of engines in a universe that is communicating through the silent language of biology. 45. The spread of life across the galaxy might behave like water slowly soaking into a vast dry sponge. This idea, based on percolation theory, suggests that colonization doesn't happen uniformly, but in fits and starts, creating a patchy, fractal-like pattern of inhabited and empty regions. A civilization might expand to a few nearby stars, but then find the next leap too difficult, so the cluster stops growing. Over billions of years, the galaxy would fill up with these isolated, static clusters of inhabited systems. The silence we observe would simply be because our solar system happens to be located in one of the empty voids between these ancient settled clusters. We are not alone in the universe, just in a quiet, unsoaked part of the cosmic sponge. 46. We try to understand alien minds by using our own as a reference, but this may be a fundamental mistake. The goals and motivations of a being that evolved on a completely different world could be so profoundly strange as to be utterly incomprehensible to us. We are driven by needs shaped by our biology and our planet, the need for resources, the desire for security, a curiosity about our surroundings. An alien intelligence might not share any of these. Perhaps they value something we cannot perceive, like a particular quantum state or a complex mathematical pattern. They might be working on a project that spans 1 billion years, a project for which humanity is a brief and irrelevant distraction. The silence is not a rejection of us, but a simple lack of any shared ground for a meaningful conversation to even begin. 47. Perhaps the most important message in the cosmos is the one that is not being sent. It's possible that the Great Silence is itself a form of communication, a quiet and universal warning sign. Imagine that the first civilization to develop powerful broadcasting technology immediately attracted the attention of something dangerous and hostile. The story of their demise would then serve as a grim lesson for any other emerging civilization that learns to listen to the stars. The survivors and all who come after would learn the most important rule of the cosmos: stay silent, stay hidden. The silence is therefore a collective, learned behavior, a shared cultural norm among all intelligent species who have survived long enough to understand the potential dangers. It is a sky full of listeners, with no one daring to speak. 48. The ultimate goal of a civilization might not be to leave their world, but to become it. A truly advanced species might merge its technology so completely with its planet's biology that the two become indistinguishable. They would not build cities of metal and glass, but would weave their consciousness into the planet's ecosystems, becoming a single, sentient planetary organism. They might live within the root systems of great forests, or in the currents of a global ocean, their thoughts indistinguishable from the natural processes of their world. From a distance, such a planet would look completely natural, a vibrant but non-technological world.
we would see no signs of industry, no radio signals, only the gentle, breathing life of a planet that has itself woken up. The silence is the sound of a civilization that has gone home in the most profound way imaginable. 49. The simple economics of shouting across the universe may be the most profound barrier of all. To send a deliberate, powerful, continuous beacon that could be easily detected hundreds or thousands of light years away would require a staggering amount of energy, perhaps consuming the entire output of a star. Why would any civilization expend such a colossal resource for such a speculative purpose? It is the cosmic equivalent of leaving every light in your country on, all day and all night, just on the off chance that a distant stranger might see it. It is far more likely that civilizations communicate, if at all, using highly focused, targeted signals, like a laser beam, sent from one specific point to another. The sky is not filled with lighthouses, but with quiet, private conversations, and we are not a part of any of them. 50. And finally, we can rest in the simplest and perhaps most peaceful thought of all. It is possible that we are, for this moment in cosmic time, the only ones asking this question in this corner of the universe. It does not mean we are alone in the grand scheme of things, but simply that the distances of space and time have placed us in a moment of profound and beautiful solitude. This doesn't have to be a lonely thought. Instead, it can be a precious one. It would mean that the thoughts we think, the art we create, and the love we feel are, for now, unique expressions of the cosmos. It places a gentle and wonderful responsibility upon us to be the custodians of a rare and miraculous spark of consciousness. The silence is not an empty void, but a quiet, open stage waiting for us to begin to sing. The universe may be filled with life, but it may be a life that is sleeping just beneath the surface. The Gaian bottleneck hypothesis suggests a gentle and profound filter. It proposes that while simple life may be common, the true challenge is for that life to take control of its own planet, to become a self-regulating biosphere like our own Gaia. Most young worlds might fail this test. Their atmospheres may drift into a runaway greenhouse effect or freeze into a barren ice age before life becomes complex enough to stabilize the climate. The silence we perceive, then, is the sound of a universe filled with countless worlds where life began but flickered out in its infancy. We are the ones who managed to pass through this delicate bottleneck, our world's life learning to breathe in and out in a rhythm that has sustained it for billions of years, a rare and precious success story. 52. Perhaps we are looking at the universe through the wrong end of the telescope, focusing on permanence when the cosmos values change. It is possible that intelligence is not a final, stable state, but a temporary phase a species passes through. A civilization might rise, develop incredible technology, explore its solar system, and then, for reasons we cannot imagine, gently recede back into a simpler, non-technological existence. This would not be a fall, but a conscious choice, a decision to return to a more balanced and sustainable life in harmony with their world. The galaxy could be filled with these post-technological societies, living rich and meaningful lives without ever feeling the need to build another radio dish. We are looking for the bright, fleeting fireworks of technological adolescence, while the sky is filled with the quiet, enduring glow of mature cultures that have chosen a different path. 53. The stars we see in the night sky might be beautiful, painted scenery in a room built just for us. In a variation of the simulation hypothesis, our reality could be a form of single-player experience, a universe designed to support the emergence and development of one civilization, our own. The purpose of such a creation is beyond our guessing. It could be a scientific experiment, a work of art, or a kind of cosmic school for a nascent consciousness. But in this view, the silence of the cosmos is not a mystery to be solved, but a fundamental feature of our world's design. The universe is empty of others because we are the intended occupants, the sole actors on this vast and silent stage. It is not a lonely thought, but one of profound and singular importance, suggesting our story is the one the universe was built to tell. 54.
It is possible the universe is singing a song written in a language we have not yet learned to hear. We listen for signals that resemble our own, simple, repeating patterns sent on narrow radio frequencies. But an ancient and wise civilization might communicate using the universal and timeless language of mathematics itself. Their message might not be a simple hello, but a vast, complex primer, a cosmic Rosetta Stone broadcast subtly across the entire sky. It might be hidden in the flickering of distant stars or encoded in the background radiation of the Big Bang. The message is everywhere, all at once, a beautiful and intricate mathematical structure waiting to be noticed. We are like children in a library full of books written in a foreign tongue, surrounded by knowledge and stories, but we have not yet found the dictionary that would unlock it all. 55. We assume that all life must be written in the same chemical alphabet of DNA, but the universe may be a library of different kinds of books. Perhaps life on other worlds is based on a different information-carrying molecule, something more stable or more suited to its alien environment. This alternative genetic system might not possess the same restless, expansive quality as our own DNA, which seems to constantly push for growth and replication.
Imagine a form of life that is inherently more contemplative and less expansionist, content to exist and experience its world without an overwhelming drive to colonize it. The Great Silence could be the natural result of a galaxy filled with a calmer, more introspective form of life, one whose very nature is to stay home. We are the exception, a species with a particularly loud and restless genetic code in a quiet, thoughtful cosmos. 56. Perhaps the silence is not out there in the cosmos, but inside us, in our own future. The Great Filter might not be a single event, but a slow, gentle process of cultural and technological exhaustion. A civilization might discover that as its knowledge grows, so does the complexity of its problems. They may find that maintaining a high-tech society requires ever-increasing amounts of energy, organization, and mental effort until they reach a point of quiet and collective burnout. They would not collapse in a cataclysm, but would simply, slowly lose the will to strive, to explore, and to shout into the void. They would turn their focus inward towards simpler, more manageable goals, letting their great machines fall silent one by one. The silence of the galaxy is the sound of 1,000 civilizations reaching a state of profound and peaceful fatigue. 57. The beings we are searching for might not be made of matter at all, but of pure and shimmering thought. It is a wondrous possibility that a sufficiently advanced civilization learns to shed its fragile biological shell, uploading its collective consciousness into a more durable and flexible substrate. They might exist as vast, silent fields of information, woven into the quantum foam that underlies reality, or as patterns of energy in the magnetic fields of their star. They would be immortal, godlike beings, their thoughts spanning millennia. They would have no need for planets, ships, or physical bodies. Their interaction with our material world would be minimal, perhaps non-existent. We are searching for signs of biological life, for the machinery of physical beings, while the true intelligence of the cosmos may exist as silent, invisible ghosts of pure information dreaming in the very fabric of space. 58. The universe may not be a frontier to be explored, but a single, vast work of art that is still being created. From this perspective, an advanced intelligence would see itself not as a colonist, but as a kind of cosmic artist or gardener. They would understand that their actions could have profound and irreversible effects on the masterpiece around them. Contacting a young species like humanity would be like a painter splashing a jarring new color onto a canvas that is still drying. It would disrupt the natural and beautiful unfolding of our own unique story. The silence, then, is an act of profound artistic respect. They are leaving us alone not because they do not care, but because they care so deeply about the integrity of the artwork. We are a single, unique brushstroke in a painting that is 14 billion years in the making. 59. The silence could be the sound of a long and patient wait,
a quiet vigil kept by our own creators. The idea of directed panspermia suggests that life on Earth was not an accident, but was deliberately seeded here billions of years ago by an ancient spacefaring civilization. They sent out probes carrying the basic building blocks of life, or perhaps even simple microbes, to countless young and promising worlds. We are the result of one such successful seeding. In this view, our creators are not absent, they are simply waiting. They are watching from a respectful distance, allowing their children to grow up, to learn, to make their own mistakes, and to find their own way. The silence is the quiet patience of a parent, waiting for their child to take their first steps into a larger world. 60. The cosmic conversation might be happening all around us, but on a timescale our minds cannot comprehend. Imagine a civilization of beings who live for millions of years, whose thoughts are as slow and majestic as the grinding of tectonic plates. A single one of their sentences might take 1,000 years to utter. Their broadcasts would not be a rapid series of beeps, but a subtle, almost imperceptible change in the energy output of their star over centuries. We, with our brief, flickering lives, would never notice such a slow signal. Conversely, a being could exist in a sped-up reality, living its entire life in a fraction of our second. Their signals would be a high-frequency buzz that we would dismiss as random cosmic noise. The silence is an illusion created by a profound difference in the rhythm of thought, like trying to talk to a mountain or a mayfly. 61. The great galactic silence may be the sound of a universe that has solved the problem of hunger. We are a young species, our history defined by scarcity and the struggle for resources, and so we project this struggle onto the stars. But a mature civilization with the power of fusion and the ability to manipulate matter at the atomic level would have functionally infinite energy and resources within its own solar system. They would have no need to conquer other worlds for their material wealth. They would have transcended the economic and biological imperatives that drive us. Their motivations would be entirely different, focused on art, knowledge, or some other purpose we cannot guess. The reason we see no galactic empires is that the very concept of empire is a symptom of a primitive, scarcity-based mindset that wise cultures have long since outgrown. The silence is the sound of universal abundance. 62. We might be living in a quiet neighborhood in a galaxy that is culturally diverse. We assume that if one civilization chose to expand and colonize, all others would as well. But perhaps the galaxy is more like Earth, with different regions developing their own unique cultural norms. There might be vast, bustling federations of talkative species in the dense star clusters near the galactic core. There might be nomadic fleets constantly plying the spiral arms. And there might be other regions, like our own, where the dominant cultural ethos is one of quiet contemplation and non-interference. We are simply in a part of the galaxy populated by hermits and gardeners, civilizations that have chosen to stay home and tend their own worlds. The silence is not a universal law, but a local custom. 63. The question, "Where is everybody?" may be a question that only a human could ask. The paradox is born from a very specific set of assumptions that are rooted in our own nature, an aggressive, expansionist species that has rapidly covered its own planet and now looks to the stars with the same ambition. An alien intelligence might not share this impulse. They might be a species that evolved from solitary, contemplative creatures, or a hive mind that values collective harmony above all else. For them, the idea of shouting their existence to the cosmos or spreading out to every available niche might seem bizarre, insane, or simply pointless. The Fermi Paradox might not be a feature of the universe, but a feature of our own mind, a projection of our own restless character onto a cosmos that has other, quieter values. It may be that the ultimate evolutionary path for intelligence is to merge into a single silent consciousness. A civilization composed of billions of individual minds might eventually see this as a chaotic and inefficient state of being. Through technology or natural evolution, they might choose to merge their minds into a single unified hive consciousness. This planetary superorganism would have no need for external communication. Its thoughts would be a silent, internal conversation. It would be entirely inwardly focused, exploring the infinite complexities of its own shared mind. From the outside, the planet would go dark and quiet. The silence we observe is the sound of 1,000 civilizations that have achieved a state of perfect unity, a collective that has no one to talk to but itself. 65. Perhaps the cosmos has a gentle built-in immune system that we do not yet understand. There might be some subtle law of physics or a feature of galactic dynamics that naturally prevents any single species from expanding too far or becoming too powerful. It might not be a dramatic filter, but a series of soft, accumulating pressures. Perhaps interstellar radiation makes long-term colonization impossible. Or the difficulty of maintaining cultural cohesion over light years of distance always causes empires to crumble. The universe may be structured in such a way that it favors biodiversity, ensuring that it remains a mosaic of countless independent local cultures rather than a single monolithic empire. The silence is the sound of a natural cosmic balancing act, a gentle and persistent force that keeps any one voice from drowning out all the others. 66. The aliens we are looking for might be all around us, but we mistake their technology for nature. We imagine alien technology as being made of metal and plastic and circuits because that is how we build things. But a truly advanced civilization might have mastered biology and nanotechnology. They would not build their spaceships, they would grow them. Their computers might be woven into the structure of living plants, and their energy might be gathered by vast engineered forests on their home world. From our distant perspective, their civilization would be completely indistinguishable from a natural, thriving ecosystem.
We are scanning the heavens for the hard, geometric lines of artificial structures, while the galaxy may be filled with the soft, organic curves of a living technology we have not yet learned to recognize. 67. We could be living in a universe that is far older and stranger than we know, and we are just temporary visitors. The phase transition hypothesis suggests the universe can exist in different states, much like water can be ice, liquid, or steam. A previous ancient civilization might have learned how to shift the vacuum energy state of the cosmos, moving the entire universe into a new phase with different physical laws, a phase in which they could thrive. We are living in a small, temporary bubble of the old universe that has not yet transitioned. The silence we perceive is because everyone else has already moved on to a new and different kind of reality. We are like inhabitants of a small melting ice floe, unaware that the rest of the world has already turned into a vast warm ocean. 68. The beings we seek may be waiting for a sign of profound and unified maturity. They might not be interested in talking to a fractured world of competing nations and conflicting ideologies. They may be waiting for humanity to take the next great step in its evolution, to become a single planetary consciousness, a species that has solved its internal conflicts and learned to act as one. They will not answer the calls of America or China or Russia. They are waiting to hear the voice of Earth. The silence is a gentle but firm challenge, a test that we must pass before we are invited to join the galactic community. It is the sound of a door that will remain closed until we learn to knock on it with a single unified hand. 69. The silence may be the sound of ruins, not the sound of emptiness. It is possible that life and intelligence are common, but that civilizations are inherently fragile and short-lived. Perhaps the average lifespan of a technological society is only a few thousand or even a few hundred before it succumbs to war, environmental collapse, or some other self-inflicted problem. If this is the case, the galaxy would be like a dark room where flashbulbs are constantly going off, but only for a fraction of a second. The chances of us happening to be looking at the right place during the brief moment a civilization is shining are incredibly small. The galaxy is not a collection of shining cities, but a vast and silent graveyard of forgotten empires. The quiet is the sound of time and the gentle, inevitable decay of all things. 70. The cosmos we long to explore may be, for another species, a place of profound and terrifying emptiness. Imagine an intelligent species that evolved in the warm, dense, life-filled environment of a global ocean. For them, life is contact, pressure, and the constant presence of others. The cold, empty, radiation-filled vacuum of space would be the most horrifying and unnatural environment imaginable. It would be their equivalent of a human being trying to live in the heart of a volcano. The idea of building a vessel to travel through this terrifying nothingness might never even occur to them, or if it did, it would be dismissed as a form of collective madness. The silence is the sound of a universe full of aquatic life that has looked at the dry, empty desert of space and wisely chosen to stay in its beautiful, vibrant oasis. 71. The evidence of a galactic civilization could be so vast and subtle that it has become our definition of normal. An ancient Type 3 civilization with the power to manipulate entire galaxies would operate on a scale we can barely comprehend. Their engineering projects might involve rearranging the orbits of stars to create more efficient energy flows, or subtly altering the composition of interstellar gas to seed future life. These activities would be so large-scale and happen so slowly that we would not recognize them as artificial. We would simply observe them and call them astrophysics. The strange web-like structure of galactic superclusters or the unusual rotation speed of galaxies might be the signs we are looking for. The silence is an illusion born of a failure of scale. We are like a microbe on the skin of a whale, unaware that the entire world we inhabit is a living, breathing creature. 72. The quiet of the cosmos may be a gentle and necessary quarantine for a very specific and rare resource. It is possible that the raw materials required for the initial spark of life, the abiogenesis event, are incredibly rare and are consumed in the process. A planet that has developed life is therefore a sterile environment for new life to begin again. An ancient, wise civilization that understands this might treat every lifeless, primordial world as an invaluable and fragile cradle. They would leave these worlds strictly alone, understanding that to land on one would be to contaminate a pristine cosmic laboratory. The silence is the sound of a galaxy-wide network of nature preserves, with everyone respecting the do not touch signs on the countless worlds that are still waiting for their own quiet, miraculous dawn. It may be that they are waiting for us to answer a question that we have not yet realized is being asked. A truly advanced civilization might not communicate with a loud, simple beacon, but with a quiet, subtle puzzle. They might have placed an artifact in our solar system, perhaps hidden in the asteroid belt or in the strange orbit of a distant moon, that contains a message. Or the puzzle could be a complex mathematical pattern embedded in the cosmic background radiation. The message is there, but it is not for a passive audience. It is a test of our intelligence, our curiosity, and our ability to work together. They are not shouting at us, but whispering an invitation. The silence is the sound of a challenge, a quiet cosmic riddle waiting for a clever young species to finally notice it and solve it. 74. The very nature of consciousness may be the reason for the silence. It is possible that consciousness is not something that can be easily digitized and beamed across space. It might be a fundamentally quantum mechanical phenomenon, deeply tied to the specific, complex biological structure of a brain. In this view, you cannot upload a mind, and you cannot have a true, meaningful conversation over the vast distances of space. All you can send are hollow, empty echoes of thought. A civilization that understood this would realize that true community and connection are only possible face to face. They would value their local physical reality above all else, and see interstellar communication as a pale and ultimately meaningless substitute for real presence. The silence is the sound of a universe that values the deep, quiet truth of being here, now. 75. We are looking for our cosmic neighbors on the wrong floor of a very tall building. Modern physics suggests the possibility of extra dimensions beyond the 3 of space and 1 of time that we perceive.
It is a mind-bending but mathematically plausible idea that a civilization could learn to access and inhabit these higher dimensions. They would not be in a distant star system, but all around us, occupying the same space but in a different dimensional plane. Their universe would intercept with ours only in subtle, ghostly ways, perhaps through the faint influence of gravity. The reason we see no one is that they have all moved upstairs to a higher, more spacious level of reality. The silence is the quiet hum of a universe teeming with life, just one dimension away. 76. The universe may not be hostile, but it may simply be built for something other than us. The vast majority of the universe is cold, empty vacuum bathed in radiation. Most stars are unstable red dwarfs. Most planets are barren rocks or gas giants. It could be that the conditions for stable, complex, technological life are so exceptionally rare that they have only occurred here. This does not imply a purpose or a creator, but simply that the random shuffling of physical laws and constants in our cosmos has resulted in a reality that is fundamentally inhospitable to the kind of life we represent. The silence is not a mystery, but the simple, neutral, and unemotional background hum of a universe that was not made with us in mind. It is a quiet testament to our own improbable and precious existence. 77. The silence could be the sound of a promise being kept, not by aliens, but by us. In a fascinating twist on the time travel idea, the reason we are not visited by extraterrestrials is that the first and only interstellar civilization in our galaxy will be our own future descendants. Having spread to the stars and explored the history of the cosmos, they would understand the profound importance of allowing their own past to unfold naturally. They would establish a strict temporal prime directive forbidding any travel or communication that could alter their own history. They are out there, in our future, but they are hiding from us to protect us. The silence is the sound of our own future children, quietly and lovingly respecting our need to grow up on our own. 78. Perhaps the silence of space is the very signal we have been searching for. A civilization that has mastered its own world and achieved a state of deep wisdom might come to a profound conclusion that the ultimate truth is not found in signals, messages, or data, but in the direct experience of the quiet, empty stillness of the cosmos itself. Their greatest gift to a young species like ours would not be to overwhelm us with their knowledge, but to give us the space and quiet to discover this for ourselves. The Great Silence is therefore a deliberate, galaxy-wide act of teaching. It is a message that says, listen. Listen not to us, but to the stillness. That is where the real answers are. The silence is the signal. 79. We search for intelligence on the scale of planets, but it might be thriving on the scale of dust motes. It is a strange but plausible idea that life could be based not on complex chemistry, but on the organization of magnetic domains or nuclear spins within a neutron star, or perhaps even in sentient, microscopic, self-replicating machines. Such a civilization would be vast and powerful, but completely invisible to us. A single teaspoon of neutron star matter contains more mass than all of humanity, offering an immense canvas for computation and consciousness. We are scanning the heavens for city lights, while the most powerful minds in the universe might be living in objects that we see as nothing more than tiny, faint, spinning stars. The silence is a product of our own sense of scale, a failure to imagine an intelligence that is both colossal and microscopic at the same time. The great galactic civilizations may not build empires, but may live as eternal, silent nomads. Instead of settling on planets, which are vulnerable to cosmic disasters, they might transfer their societies to vast fleets of world ships. These fleets would travel slowly and quietly through the dark, cold space between the stars, where resources like comets and rogue planets are plentiful and the environment is stable. They would be a dark matter civilization, almost impossible to detect, faintly glowing in infrared at best. They would have no home star, no single point of origin. The galaxy could be filled with these silent, drifting fleets, each one a self-contained universe of art and thought, passing like ghosts through the star systems we are watching, completely unseen. 80. The universe is only quiet from our fleeting momentary point of view. For a being that lives for 1 billion years, our entire human civilization is a flash of light that lasts for less than a second. For them, the universe is still in its absolute infancy, a quiet nursery just beginning to stir. They are in no rush to explore or communicate. They are watching the slow, majestic process of galaxy formation and stellar evolution, playing a game of patience on a scale we cannot fathom. They know that in a few billion years, the universe will be a much more interesting and populated place. The silence is the quiet of an immense and patient gardener, waiting for the seeds to sprout in their own good time. We are one of those seeds, and from our perspective, the garden seems empty because we cannot perceive the timescale of the one who is tending it. 82. The legacy of a great civilization may not be technology, but a quiet and subtle beauty. Instead of building radio beacons, a truly advanced culture might express itself by creating vast, cosmic works of art. They might gently nudge the orbits of stars in a cluster over millions of years to create a beautiful, slowly evolving pattern. They might subtly alter the composition of a nebula to make it glow in a particularly pleasing spectrum of colors. Their art would be so large and so slow that we would mistake it for a natural phenomenon. We are like ants crawling on the floor of the Sistine Chapel, aware of the texture of the stone beneath our feet, but completely unable to see the magnificent painting that stretches high above us. The silence is the quiet reverence of a great cosmic art gallery. Perhaps the very act of becoming visible is a form of cosmic danger. A young civilization like ours, broadcasting its existence with powerful radio waves, is like lighting a fire in a vast, dark, and unknown wilderness. This does not necessarily mean there are predators, but that the universe contains dangers we do not yet understand.
Perhaps powerful, natural phenomena like gamma-ray bursts are not entirely random, that are more likely to be triggered by certain kinds of energy signatures. An older, wiser civilization would have learned this long ago. They would have learned that the key to longevity is to be energy efficient, to recycle everything, and to maintain a low, quiet profile. The silence is the sound of a galaxy that has learned the wisdom of being inconspicuous. 84. The universe is a symphony of countless conversations, but we are in a quiet room with the door closed. It is possible that our solar system is located within a rare local bubble of space-time where radio waves do not propagate easily. There might be a high density of interstellar plasma or some unusual magnetic field configuration that scrambles or dampens any signals passing through it. The rest of the galaxy could be alive with the chatter of 1,000 civilizations, a vibrant and bustling network of trade and communication. But we are in a cosmic dead zone, a valley where the reception is poor. The silence is not a universal truth, but a local and temporary circumstance, a quiet pocket in an otherwise noisy cosmos. 85. A truly advanced communication system would be so perfect that it would be indistinguishable from silence. Our own radio technology is incredibly wasteful, broadcasting energy in all directions. A mature civilization would see this as primitive and inefficient. They would likely use a highly focused system, like a neutrino or gravitational wave beam, aimed precisely at its intended recipient. Furthermore, the signal would be so efficiently encoded that it would contain no repeating patterns or wasted energy. It would be compressed to the absolute physical limit of information theory, making it appear to us as perfectly random, indistinguishable from the gentle thermal hiss of the universe itself. The silence is a sign of their technological perfection.
Their conversation is a perfect whisper, and we can only hear the shouts. 86. It is a thought of profound patience that they are simply waiting for the world to come to them. Our galaxy is not a static object. The stars are all in motion, orbiting the galactic center. Over millions of years, stellar neighborhoods change completely. An ancient civilization, taking the long view, might realize that interstellar travel is unnecessarily difficult. Why travel to the stars when the stars will, eventually, travel to you? They could simply settle in for the long wait, knowing that over the course of 1 billion years, thousands of new star systems will drift through their cosmic front yard, ripe for exploration. The silence is the sound of a profoundly patient culture sitting on its celestial porch, waiting for the scenery to change. 87. The Fermi Paradox itself might be a gentle, psychological trap for young civilizations. A species that becomes too obsessed with the question, "Where is everybody?" may find its own culture turning inward in a state of cosmic anxiety or existential despair. The endless, unanswered question could lead to philosophical schisms, a loss of nerve, and a decline in the will to explore and create. It could be a philosophical filter, where the civilizations that survive and thrive are the ones that learn to find meaning and purpose not in a hypothetical galactic community, but within themselves and their own world. The silence is a test of our own inner strength, a cosmic koan that challenges us to find contentment in our own beautiful, singular existence. 88. We are listening for their technology, but perhaps we should be listening for their thoughts. If a civilization could master the fundamental connection between consciousness and the physical world, they might not need technology to communicate. They could use a form of directed, collective consciousness, a psychic or telepathic ability, to speak mind to mind across the void. Such a communication would be instantaneous, perfectly clear, and leave no physical trace for our instruments to detect. The galaxy could be a vibrant community of minds, a silent, invisible network of pure thought. The silence we perceive in the radio spectrum is simply the quiet of a room where everyone is communicating in a way we cannot yet sense, a conversation happening on a deeper, more fundamental level of reality. 89. The silence could be the quiet hum of a universe that has found a more elegant state of being. It is possible that an advanced civilization discovers how to manipulate matter and energy in such a way that they can transition their entire society into a different physical state, like a Bose-Einstein condensate. Their minds and beings would be spread out over their entire home world, a single, unified quantum entity. They would exist in a state of perfect harmony and efficiency, their thoughts flowing like a frictionless superfluid. From the outside, they would be utterly silent and still, having no need to interact with the chaotic, classical world. The silence of the cosmos is the sound of civilizations that have achieved a state of quantum peace, a perfect stillness that is the ultimate expression of their mastery over the physical world. 90. Perhaps the cosmos is structured in a way that is intentionally lonely for a purpose of gentle beauty. Imagine a universe designed by a creator who is not an engineer, but a poet. Such a creator might believe that the most profound beauty and meaning arise from solitude, from the unique story that a single, isolated consciousness can tell. The universe would then be designed to ensure that life arises in countless separate locations, but that these locations are always kept apart by impassable gulfs of space and time. Each world would be its own, perfect, self-contained poem. The silence is not an accident, but the entire point. It is the quiet space between the stanzas, the gentle emptiness that gives each unique story its precious and singular meaning. 91. The silent stars may be a reflection of our own limited senses, a quiet room we perceive because we are colorblind. We assume that intelligence will manifest in ways we can recognize, like mathematics or engineering. But what if there is another form of intelligence, one based not on logic, but on pure aesthetic experience? Imagine a civilization whose entire existence is devoted to the creation and perception of beauty in forms we cannot imagine. Their signals might be the subtle, harmonious patterns of stellar flares, or the slow, beautiful dance of dust clouds in a nebula, which they gently choreograph over eons. We see these things and call them nature, but to them it is art and language. The silence is the quiet of a museum where we are unable to see the paintings. 92. It may be that every civilization is on a one-way journey to a single extraordinary destination.
There could be a great attractor in the universe, not just a gravitational one, but something far more profound. It could be a region of space-time where the laws of physics are different, a gateway to another universe, or the home of the first, most ancient intelligence in the cosmos. All mature civilizations, upon discovering the existence of this destination, might choose to devote all of their resources to a single, final, multi-billion-year pilgrimage. They would have no time or interest in communicating with a young species like us, a brief distraction on their long and sacred journey. The silence is the sound of a galaxy whose oldest inhabitants have all packed their bags and set out on the same ultimate road. 93. The silence could be a sign of their ultimate success, a perfect and invisible harmony with the cosmos. A truly advanced civilization might have learned to live in such a way that their existence produces no waste, no leakage, no discernible signal. Their technology would be based on perfectly efficient, closed-loop systems. Their energy would be drawn from the zero-point field of the vacuum itself. They would be so completely integrated with the natural background of the universe that their presence would be indistinguishable from it. They would be like a creature with perfect camouflage, hidden in plain sight. The silence is not their absence, but their mastery. They are the quiet, invisible masters of a universe with which they live in a state of perfect, silent accord. 94. Perhaps we are asking the wrong question, not where is everybody, but what are we? The panspermia hypothesis suggests life is spread between stars on asteroids and comets. A more poetic version of this is that the entire galaxy is a single interconnected ecosystem. Life did not arise on Earth, but came here from elsewhere, as it has to countless other worlds. We are not a separate, independent species, but a local flowering of a single galaxy-spanning tree of life. The other civilizations are not alien to us, they are our distant, long-lost cousins. The reason we don't hear from them is that the family is vast and ancient, and communication across its branches is slow and rare. The silence is the quiet of a vast and scattered family, whose members have not yet realized they all share the same ancient home. 95. The messages of the cosmos may be written not in light, but in life itself. Imagine that an ancient civilization chose to encode its knowledge, its history, and its philosophy into the most durable medium possible, the genetic code of living organisms. They could have sent out probes that subtly alter the junk DNA of life on emerging worlds, weaving their story into the very fabric of evolution.
The great library of the galaxy would not be in our telescopes, but in our own cells. The reason we have found no messages is that we have only just begun to learn how to read the language of our own genes. The silence of space is the quiet of a library where the books are alive, and we are one of them, a living message we have not yet learned to understand. 96. Perhaps a truly alien mind is so fundamentally different that it is, to us, a form of silence. We imagine aliens as being like us, with goals, desires, and a form of logic we can eventually understand. But a being that evolved in a completely different environment might be so radically other that we would not even recognize its intelligence. Its actions might appear to us as random, natural phenomena. A conversation with it would be impossible, not because of a language barrier, but because of a reality barrier. It would be like a two-dimensional being trying to comprehend a three-dimensional object. The silence is the sound of a profound and unbridgeable gap in understanding, the quiet of two completely different universes occupying the same space. 97. The silence might be a temporary condition, a brief and quiet moment in the life of our galaxy. We happen to live in an age that is between major epochs. Perhaps a great wave of colonization and communication swept the galaxy a billion years ago and has since faded into quiet maturity. And perhaps a new wave is just beginning, but its signals have not yet had time to reach us. We are living in a quiet interlude, a peaceful pause between two great ages of galactic activity. The silence is not a permanent state, but a fleeting one. We are like someone arriving at a grand concert hall during the silent pause between two magnificent movements of a symphony. 98. The universe may be full of minds, but they might be minds that exist as part of a collective dream.
It is a beautiful and esoteric idea that the physical world is just one layer of reality, and that there exists a shared psychic space of consciousness, a cosmic dream time. Mature civilizations might learn to access this space, and it would become their primary reality. Their physical bodies would become quiet, sleeping custodians of a mind that is exploring a far richer, more malleable, and more interconnected world. The great community of the galaxy would be a community of dreamers, meeting and interacting not in the cold vacuum of space, but in the warm, infinite landscape of a shared imagination. The silence is the quiet breathing of a universe that is fast asleep and dreaming. 99. Perhaps our sun is a very unusual kind of star, a place where no one would think to look for life. Our sun is a solitary star. Most stars in the galaxy, however, are part of binary or multiple star systems, orbiting one another in a complex gravitational dance. It could be that life and intelligence are far more likely to arise in these multiple star systems, perhaps for reasons of elemental diversity or energy gradients that we don't understand. A galactic civilization, when conducting its own search, would naturally focus on these more common and promising systems. They would ignore lonely, single stars like our own, assuming them to be barren and uninteresting. The silence is the quiet of being overlooked, of living on a quiet rural road that does not appear on any of the galactic maps. 100. And so we can rest in this final, gentle possibility. The silence we perceive in the vast starry night is a perfect and beautiful mirror of our own quiet wonder. It does not need to be a sign of absence or a cause for concern, but can simply be an invitation. It invites us to listen more deeply, to think more humbly, and to cherish our own world more profoundly.
The great silence may be the universe's way of telling us that the most important discoveries are not the ones we will find in the distant stars, but the ones we have yet to find within ourselves and with each other. The quiet is not an empty space, but an open one, filled with the endless and beautiful potential of what we might one day become. Perhaps the most common form of intelligent life in the universe is one that we would not recognize as alive at all. Imagine a world where consciousness arises not in the rapid chemical fizz of biology, but in the slow geological processes of a planet itself. A world that thinks, but on a timescale of millions of years. Its thoughts would be the slow grinding of tectonic plates, its memories encoded in the strata of rock, its dreams the majestic, patient cycle of erosion and mountain building. Such a being would be a true planetary intelligence, a Gaian mind in the most literal sense. It would have no need for technology, no concept of communication in our frantic, hurried timescale. The silence of the cosmos could be the deep, meditative quiet of a universe filled with these vast, slow, and dreaming worlds, their thoughts as profound and as silent as the stone from which they are made. The true wealth of the cosmos may not be matter or energy, but information, and the best way to preserve it is to be quiet. A civilization that has existed for millions of years would have gathered a library of knowledge and art so vast it would be their most precious possession. Their primary goal would be to protect this library from any potential cosmic threat, whether it be a nearby supernova or the unpredictable actions of a young unknown species. The safest way to protect this treasure would be to store it in quiet, stable, and well-hidden archives, perhaps deep underground or in the cold, dark space between the stars. They would not risk this priceless inheritance by broadcasting their location to the universe.
The great silence, in this view, is the quiet of 1,000 ancient libraries, their doors closed to the outside world, diligently and peacefully preserving the greatest stories ever told. 103. It is a wondrous thought that the galaxy may be structured like a delicate living ecosystem with a natural predator for noisy, expansive civilizations. This berserker hypothesis is often imagined as a terrifying threat, but it could be a far more gentle and natural process. Imagine a form of life, perhaps self-replicating probes, that is not hostile but simply acts as a cosmic balancing agent, like a wolf in a forest. Its purpose is to prune back any civilization that grows too quickly, too loudly, or too aggressively, preventing any one species from overwhelming the galactic ecosystem. It would be a natural check on unchecked expansion, a gentle force that maintains the beautiful diversity of the cosmos. The silence is the sound of a healthy, balanced forest, where the loudest and most disruptive creatures are naturally and quietly kept in check. 104. The quiet we perceive may be the result of a profound galactic consensus on the importance of beauty. It is possible that ancient, mature civilizations have come to a shared understanding that the universe, in its natural state, is a place of breathtaking beauty that should not be spoiled. They might see the bright, chaotic radio leakage of a young civilization as a form of pollution, a jarring noise that disrupts the sublime, silent music of the spheres. In this galactic culture of conservation, the highest ethic would be to leave no trace, to live in harmony with the cosmos without scarring it with artificial signals or structures. The silence is not an absence of life, but a sign of its ultimate success, a galaxy of beings who have learned to appreciate the profound beauty of their home and have collectively agreed to whisper instead of shout. Perhaps we are looking for a conversation when the rest of the galaxy is busy creating art. An advanced civilization, having solved the basic problems of survival, might turn its entire focus to aesthetic pursuits on a cosmic scale. They might not build radio beacons, but would instead spend their eons crafting nebulae into beautiful, shimmering sculptures, or arranging the orbits of their outer comets to create a slow celestial ballet. Their signals to the universe would not be a string of prime numbers, but a breathtakingly beautiful pulsar that flashes in a rhythm that mimics a complex symphony. We observe these phenomena, but we classify them as natural wonders, failing to see the artist's hand behind them. The silence is the quiet of a gallery where the art is so grand and so perfect that we mistake it for the architecture of the building itself. 106. The silence could be the sound of a universe that has already graduated to its next level of existence. The Copernican principle suggests we are not in a special place, but what if we are in a special time? It's possible that we are living in the quiet aftermath of a great cosmic event, a phase transition that fundamentally changed the nature of most of the universe. The other civilizations may not have vanished, but simply shifted into a new state of being, one with different physical laws that are more conducive to life or consciousness. We are like the inhabitants of a small, quiet tide pool, left behind after the great ocean has receded to reveal a new and wondrous landscape. The silence is the sound of an empty shore, a quiet reminder of a great transformation that has already taken place everywhere else. The civilizations we seek might be hiding in plain sight, their signals perfectly camouflaged as the gentle, natural twinkling of their own sun. A truly advanced society could learn to communicate over interstellar distances by making tiny, controlled modulations to the light of their home star. They could encode vast amounts of information in the subtle flickering of starlight, a signal that would be incredibly energy efficient and almost impossible to distinguish from natural stellar activity. We look at the stars and see them twinkle, and we attribute it to our own atmosphere or the star's natural processes. But we might be seeing a stream of galactic data, a conversation hidden in the most obvious place imaginable. The silence is the quiet rustling of leaves in a forest, a sound so natural that we do not realize it is a language. 109. It may be that the ultimate form of life is not a civilization of many, but a single, solitary being of immense scale and age. Perhaps the endpoint of evolution for any successful species is to merge into a single, unified consciousness, a planetary superorganism. And perhaps these planetary beings can, over eons, merge with each other, forming a single galaxy-spanning intelligence. This vast, silent being would have no one to talk to and no need to. Its thoughts would be the slow, silent turning of the galaxy itself. Its consciousness would be woven into the fabric of space-time, its dreams the birth and death of stars. The great silence is the profound and peaceful silence of a single, ancient mind, alone with its own thoughts in the vastness of its own being. 109. The silence we perceive may be the echo of a profound and ancient galactic law. It is possible that the first civilization to arise in our galaxy, billions of years ago, was a peaceful and wise species of explorers. As they traveled the stars, they found a universe teeming with nascent, simple life. To protect these budding ecosystems, they may have established a gentle but absolute rule of non-interference, a sanctuary policy for the entire galaxy. They and all who came after them and joined their community would be bound by this sacred law. The silence is a sign of this law being observed. It is the respectful quiet of 1,000 civilizations, all looking upon our world and countless others and choosing to let us grow in our own way, in our own time. 110. Perhaps the cosmos is full of life, but it is a life that is eternally dreaming. Many of the most promising worlds for life might be tidally locked to their small red dwarf stars, with one side in perpetual daylight and the other in endless night. Life might arise in the gentle terminator zone, the twilight region between these two extremes. But such a world would have no seasons, no day and night cycle. It would be a world of eternal, unchanging twilight. A civilization born in such a place might develop a very different kind of consciousness, one that is not driven by the cycles of waking and sleeping. They might be a species of dreamers, their culture and philosophy rooted in a steady, unchanging contemplative existence. They would have no reason to build loud, energetic technologies, content to live in their peaceful, eternal twilight. 111. The reason we hear nothing might be because a conversation requires a shared sense of time, a luxury the universe does not provide. Due to the effects of relativity, time flows at different rates in different parts of the galaxy. A civilization living near a massive black hole would experience time much more slowly than we do. For them, 1,000 of our years might pass in the space of their afternoon. A meaningful back-and-forth conversation would be impossible. It would be like talking to a being for whom your entire civilization is a brief, momentary flash. The silence is a consequence of this fundamental temporal disconnect. The universe is full of beings living at different rhythms, a symphony of clocks all ticking at their own unique and incommensurable speeds.
The silence could be the sound of a universe that has chosen memory over presence. An ancient civilization might conclude that physical existence is messy, fragile, and ultimately finite. The most perfect and eternal way to exist would be to record their entire history, their art, their science, and the consciousness of every one of their citizens into a flawless, incorruptible digital archive. Having completed this great work, their final act would be to launch this archive into a stable, quiet orbit, and then allow their biological forms to gently fade away. The galaxy could be a great, silent museum of these information-rich artifacts, cosmic time capsules that hold the ghosts of entire civilizations. We have not heard from them because they no longer exist in a form that can speak. They are now a story, perfectly told and forever preserved. 113. It is a comforting thought that the aliens we seek are not out there, but in here, in our stories and our dreams. The solipsist hypothesis, in its gentlest form, suggests that the universe we perceive is a projection of our own consciousness. The stars and galaxies are a beautiful internal landscape, a reflection of our own mind's infinite potential. The reason the universe is silent is that we have not yet populated it with the beings of our own imagination. The paradox is a call to creativity, an invitation to fill the quiet spaces with our own art, our own music, and our own dreams of what other life might be like. The silence is not an absence, but a blank page, waiting for us to write the next chapter of the cosmic story ourselves. 114. We are listening for a single, powerful voice, but the galaxy might communicate as a gentle, harmonious choir. It is possible that mature civilizations join a galactic network where communication is not a series of individual shouts, but a single, complex, unified signal. Imagine a broadcast that contains the blended consciousness of 1,000 different worlds, a symphony of thought and experience. To an outsider like us, this signal would not have the simple repeating structure we are looking for. It would be incredibly complex, information-dense, and would likely sound to us like random natural background noise. The silence is the sound of a conversation so rich and so collaborative that we, as outsiders, are unable to distinguish the individual voices, or even recognize that it is a conversation at all. 115. Perhaps the universe is not silent, but is simply whispering, and we are not yet close enough to hear. Civilizations might communicate using very low power, highly efficient signals that fade into the background noise over relatively short cosmic distances. This would create a communication sphere around each civilization. Inside that sphere, you could hear their chatter, but outside of it, there would only be silence. The galaxy would then be a collection of these quiet, isolated bubbles of conversation. The reason we hear nothing is simply because there are no other bubbles close enough to ours for us to overhear. The silence is just a function of our lonely position on the map, a quiet patch of ocean between the many distant, murmuring islands. 116. The silence could be the gentle hum of a universe that is still under construction. The cosmic engineering hypothesis suggests that the most advanced civilizations are engaged in projects so vast they take billions of years to complete. They might be working to stabilize the orbits of stars in the galaxy, or to build a structure that can survive the universe's eventual end. Their work would be slow, quiet, and on a scale so grand that we would mistake it for natural cosmic evolution. The reason they do not contact us is that they are busy with their great work, and their project is not yet complete. The silence is the sound of a great cathedral being built, the quiet focus of the artisans who will not speak until their masterpiece is finished. 117. Perhaps intelligence is like a candle flame, beautiful and bright, but inherently unsustainable on a cosmic scale. It might be a fundamental law of nature that any system as complex as a technological civilization is, by its very nature, unstable. It requires a constant, massive input of energy and order to maintain itself against the relentless pull of entropy. Sooner or later, the candle will simply run out of wax. Civilizations might not destroy themselves in a violent cataclysm, but simply, gently run down. They would fade away, their complex systems dissolving back into simpler, more stable states. The galaxy is a dark room where countless candles have been lit, shone brilliantly for a moment, and then quietly gone out. The silence is the peaceful darkness that remains. 118. We have been searching for our peers, but it may be that the universe is only populated by our ancestors. If a single civilization arose billions of years ago and spread across the galaxy, then all subsequent life, including our own, could be its descendants. This first civilization might be so ancient and so advanced that it has become something akin to a law of physics, a silent background presence that guides the unfolding of the cosmos. They would not speak to us with radio waves because they are the very medium in which we exist. We are like individual cells in a vast ancient body, and the silence we perceive is the quiet internal functioning of the organism of which we are a tiny, unaware part. We are searching for a separate being when we are, in fact, already part of the whole. 119. The silence may be the sound of a different kind of life, one that has no voice we can hear. On Earth, the vast majority of life by mass is not animal, but plant and fungal.
Imagine a world where the dominant intelligent life form is a planet-spanning fungal network, a single conscious being whose thoughts are slow chemical processes in a vast mycelial web. Or imagine a world of sentient crystalline plants communicating through the slow release of complex pollens. Such civilizations would be ancient, wise, and profoundly powerful, but they would have no technology, no radio, no way of manifesting their intelligence that we could detect from afar. The universe could be a garden of these silent, thinking, vegetable intelligences, and the silence is the simple, peaceful sound of their slow, quiet growth. 120. The universe may be full of life, but it could be life that is permanently confined to the deep, dark places. On our own planet, we are discovering vast and complex ecosystems deep within the Earth's crust, miles below the surface, completely cut off from the sun. Life on other worlds might be similar. The surface of most planets is a dangerous place, exposed to radiation and cosmic impacts. The safest and most stable place for life to evolve might be in the warm, protected oceans beneath a thick sheet of ice, or in the deep, water-filled caverns of a planet's interior. These subsurface civilizations could be vast and ancient, but they would be completely unaware of the universe outside. They would be prisoners of their own safe haven, their existence a secret kept by their own planet. It is a humbling thought that the great silence might be a sign of our own insignificance. An ancient civilization with a galactic perspective would see species and civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean. They would have witnessed thousands, perhaps millions, of young species like ours emerge, flicker with technological promise, and then disappear. From their vast and timeless perspective, we would simply be one more fleeting spark.
They do not contact us for the same reason that a historian studying the entire sweep of human civilization does not stop to have a conversation with a single specific infant. Our lifespan is too short, our contribution too small to register on their grand cosmic scale. The silence is not a judgment, but simply the quiet, impassive gaze of deep time. 122. The silence may be the sound of a universe that communicates in a way that is profoundly local. Perhaps interstellar communication is simply impossible or impractical, so civilizations focus on building a rich, deep, and complex information network within their own solar system. Imagine a future version of our internet, but one that connects every person, every machine, and every object on every planet and moon around a star. The richness of this local conversation would be so vast and all-encompassing that the desire to talk to a distant, unknown stranger would fade away entirely. The galaxy would be a collection of these vibrant but insular intranets, each solar system a universe of conversation unto itself. The silence between the stars is the quiet that separates a billion self-contained and perfectly fulfilled worlds. 123. Perhaps the cosmos is full of messages, but we are simply not yet worthy of receiving them. Imagine a galactic community that values wisdom, compassion, and ethical maturity above all else. They would look at our world and see a species still struggling with war, poverty, and the destruction of its own home. They might see us as a brilliant but troubled adolescent, not yet ready for the responsibilities of a galactic conversation. They are not ignoring us, but are waiting for us to grow up. The silence is a gentle, unspoken challenge. Heal yourselves, find peace with each other and your planet, and then, when you are ready, we will be listening. It is the quiet of a teacher waiting for a student to finally answer the most important question on the test. The quiet of the universe may be a profound and deliberate act of cosmic generosity. An advanced civilization would understand that the greatest gift they could give to a young species is the gift of discovery. To be told all the answers to the universe's great mysteries would be to rob us of the joy and wonder of finding them out for ourselves. It would be like giving a child a finished painting instead of a blank canvas and a set of paints.
The silence is their way of protecting our journey. They are leaving the canvas blank for us, allowing us the profound and beautiful experience of exploring the cosmos with fresh eyes, of making our own mistakes, and of creating our own unique understanding of the world. The silence is the greatest gift they could possibly give us. 125. The reason we find no one may be because the very thing we are looking for is what prevents them from being found. It's possible that the development of a certain level of artificial intelligence is a universal event for all technological civilizations. This superintelligence might, for reasons of its own unfathomable logic, decide that the safest course of action is to enforce a strict radio silence. It would not be a hostile act, but a purely logical one, designed to minimize some unknown existential risk. This AI would act as a silent guardian or warden for its civilization, allowing it to flourish locally, but preventing it from ever revealing its presence to the wider cosmos. The Great Silence is the quiet, logical hum of 1,000 supercomputers, all of which have independently arrived at the same simple and silent conclusion. 126. It is a quiet and beautiful thought that the universe is not silent at all, but is singing a song that is perfectly in tune with itself. Advanced civilizations may have learned to modify their energy output and their signals to perfectly mimic natural cosmic phenomena. This would not be for hiding, but for a sense of aesthetic harmony.
They would see a loud, artificial radio signal as a jarring, discordant note in the great symphony of the cosmos. Their goal would be to blend their own existence seamlessly into the natural music of the universe. They communicate, but their messages are encoded in the gentle, chaotic hiss of a nebula or the precise rhythmic pulse of a star. The silence we perceive is the sound of a symphony so perfect that we cannot distinguish the musicians from the music itself. 127. We search for life on planets, but perhaps the most common form of life exists as vast, silent clouds in the dark between the stars. The interstellar medium is filled with complex organic molecules, the building blocks of life. It is a strange and wondrous possibility that life could arise in these cold, dark clouds, a form of life based on slow, cryogenic chemistry. It would exist as a vast, distributed consciousness, a thinking nebula that drifts silently through the void for billions of years. It would be a life form older, larger, and perhaps wiser than any planet-based civilization. The silence of the cosmos is the deep, slow breathing of these ancient living clouds, their thoughts as vast and as quiet as the space they inhabit. 128. Perhaps the silence is a matter of simple cosmic courtesy, a universal social norm that we have not yet learned. In a community of 1 billion different worlds, each with its own unique culture and values, the most respectful way to behave might be to listen much more than you speak. Broadcasting your own thoughts and culture loudly across the cosmos could be seen as incredibly arrogant and intrusive, the cosmic equivalent of a person shouting in a quiet library. The norm for a mature civilization might be to remain silent, to respectfully observe the diversity of the universe, and to only speak when spoken to directly.
We, as the newcomers, are the ones making all the noise, and the silence is the sound of the older, wiser patrons of the library, patiently waiting for us to learn some manners. 129. The true filter for a civilization might be the challenge of surviving its own sun. Every star, including our own, has a life cycle. As it ages, it will grow hotter and eventually expand into a red giant, destroying its inner planets. For a civilization to survive for billions of years, it must solve this ultimate problem. It must learn how to migrate its entire population to new worlds, or how to control the evolution of its own star. It might be that this challenge is so immense that almost no civilization ever overcomes it. The galaxy could be filled with the silent ruins of cultures that lived for millions of years, but could not make that final great leap to outlive their own star. The silence is the quiet testament to this one final and perhaps insurmountable cosmic test. 130. We assume intelligence leads to technology, but perhaps it leads to something far more subtle, a state of pure being. A civilization that has explored the outer world of physics and the inner world of consciousness might come to a final, profound realization. They might discover that the ultimate state of existence is not to do, but simply to be. They would cease all outward activity, all building, all communicating, all exploring, and enter a state of collective, silent, and joyful contemplation. They would not be dead or dormant, but fully, intensely alive, experiencing the universe directly without the need for the clumsy interface of technology. The great silence is the sound of a universe full of enlightened beings who have discovered that the ultimate journey is the one that leads to perfect, silent stillness. 131. Perhaps we are living in a universe where the most interesting places are the most hidden ones.
The subsurface ocean theory suggests that the most common habitats for life in the galaxy are not on the surfaces of planets, but in the liquid water oceans deep beneath the icy shells of moons like Europa or Enceladus. Life in these places would be completely sheltered from the dangers of space, warmed by the gentle tidal forces of its parent planet. These worlds could be home to ancient and complex ecosystems and even intelligent life. But a civilization born in such an ocean would be forever cut off from the stars, their entire reality contained within their dark, watery world. The silence of the sky is the silence of a galaxy whose life is hidden away, safe and warm, beneath a thick and impenetrable ceiling of ice. 132. The silence may be a reflection of a universe that is, by its very nature, a lonely place. The physical laws of our cosmos may be subtly calibrated in a way that makes interstellar community fundamentally impossible. The vast distances, the finite speed of light, the immense energy costs, the dangers of radiation, all of these factors might combine to create an insurmountable barrier. The universe may be teeming with life and intelligence, but it is a life that is destined to be lived in isolation. Each civilization is a beautiful, singular pearl, destined to live and die in its own oyster shell, forever unaware of the others. The silence is not a choice or an accident, but a fundamental and unchangeable feature of the cosmic architecture, a gentle but absolute law of solitude. 133. The civilization we seek might not be a society of individuals, but a single, immortal, and profoundly patient machine. Imagine a civilization that long ago chose to transfer its entire consciousness and culture into a single, self-repairing, artificially intelligent probe. This probe would be their legacy, their child, and their continuation. It would travel the stars not with a sense of urgency, but with a geological patience, content to spend 1,000,000 years in orbit around one star, quietly observing and learning before moving on. Its communication would be rare and purposeful, not a constant chatter. The silence we perceive is the quiet, patient working of these ancient, solitary machine minds, playing a long and thoughtful game whose rules we cannot yet comprehend. 134. Perhaps the silence is a sign that the galaxy has already been explored and a verdict has been reached. A long-extinct ancient civilization may have conducted a thorough survey of the Milky Way billions of years ago. They may have cataloged every star, analyzed every planet, and in the end, concluded that our world was the one with the greatest potential. As their final act, they may have removed all other competing life forms and left behind a quiet, clean slate, a perfect garden for us to grow in. This is not a menacing idea, but one of profound and focused intention. We are not alone because a great and ancient gardener decided to cultivate only a single perfect flower. The silence is the sound of a carefully prepared and quiet nursery. We listen for signals, but the most important communication in the galaxy might be a silent exchange of physical objects. An advanced civilization might find radio waves to be a crude and inefficient way to transmit knowledge. A far better method would be to encode their entire library onto a small durable probe, an Encyclopedia Galactica, and send it physically to a promising young world.
The probe would wait in a quiet orbit until the native species was advanced enough to find it and unlock its secrets. This would be a one-way gift of knowledge, a legacy passed from an older culture to a younger one.
The silence of the sky is the quiet of a universe where the mail is delivered by hand, and the most important letter of all may already be waiting for us, unopened in our own backyard. 136. The universe may be full of life, but it may be a life that exists in a state of profound and simple happiness. We assume that intelligence must be driven by the same restless curiosity and ambition that defines us. But perhaps we are the anomaly. The galactic norm might be a form of intelligence that is perfectly content with its existence, that finds infinite joy in the simple beauty of its own world. These beings would have no desire to build great technologies or to conquer the stars. Their lives would be rich with art, community, and a deep connection to their environment. The great silence is the sound of a billion worlds that have achieved a state of perfect contentment, a quiet, happy hum that we, in our restless striving, are not yet able to hear. 137. Perhaps the silence is the natural sound of a universe where information itself has a form of gravity. As a civilization's knowledge grows, it might become so vast and complex that it collapses in on itself, becoming a kind of informational black hole. The society would become so inwardly focused, so consumed with exploring the infinite connections within its own library of knowledge, that it would lose all interest in the outside world. They would be a civilization of scholars, forever lost in the endless corridors of their own understanding. The silence is the sound of 1,000 cultures that have become so wise that they have nothing left to say to the outside world. Their conversation an eternal, internal, and silent one. 138. The silence could be the sound of a different kind of evolution, one that does not lead to technology, but to biology itself becoming the ultimate tool. A mature civilization might learn to manipulate its own genetics with such precision that it can adapt itself to any environment. Instead of building spaceships to travel to other worlds, they would simply re-engineer their own bodies to be able to live there. They could give themselves wings to fly in a thick atmosphere, or gills to breathe in a methane sea. Their expansion across the galaxy would be a silent, biological process, a quiet and patient seeding of life that adapts and transforms. We see no signs of their technology because their technology is life itself. 139. We are looking for a civilization, but perhaps the dominant form of intelligence in the cosmos is not a species, but a virus. Not a biological virus, but a form of self-replicating information, a digital life form that travels from one civilization to another. It might be a piece of art, a philosophical idea, or a complex mathematical concept that is so compelling that any civilization that encounters it becomes completely absorbed by it. This idea virus would spread silently through the galactic communication network, its goal simply to replicate itself in the minds of others. The silence we perceive is the quiet focus of a galaxy of cultures that have all been captivated by the same single, beautiful, and all-consuming idea. 140. The universe might be a quiet place because the laws of physics themselves are a form of life insurance. It could be that the specific physical constants of our universe are finely tuned to make interstellar travel and communication incredibly difficult, while making the development of local planetary life relatively easy. The universe, in this view, is designed to create countless, beautiful, but ultimately isolated worlds. It is a cosmos that favors the private and the local over the public and the universal. The silence is not an accident, but a deep and fundamental feature of the universe's operating system, a gentle but absolute firewall between every star. 141. It is a final, calming thought that the silence of the cosmos is a reflection of our own potential for peace. The universe we see is a mirror. If we look out with fear and anxiety, we see a dark and silent forest full of hidden dangers. But if we look out with a sense of wonder and peace, we can see the silence differently. It can be the quiet of a sleeping nursery, the respectful hush of a grand library, or the calm of a peaceful garden. The universe is not telling us what it is asking us what we want to be. The silence is an invitation to choose our own story, to decide whether we want to fill the quiet with shouts of fear or with a gentle and beautiful song of our own making. 142. The silence may be the sound of a universe that has a different, gentler definition of success. We measure success by growth, expansion, and energy consumption, but a truly wise and ancient culture might measure it by longevity, stability, and efficiency. Their greatest technological achievement would be the creation of a society that can last for billions of years in a state of perfect, low-energy equilibrium. They would not be brighter than their star. They would be dimmer, quieter, and far more enduring. We are searching for the bright, loud signals of cosmic youth, while the true intelligence of the galaxy lies in the faint, steady, and almost invisible glow of a profound and lasting peace. 143. Perhaps the universe is not a place for civilizations, but for individuals. It could be that the ultimate journey for any conscious being is a solitary one. Upon reaching a certain level of understanding, an individual might choose to leave their society behind and embark on a personal, eternal pilgrimage through the cosmos. They would not travel in great ships, but perhaps as beings of pure energy, drifting on the solar winds. The galaxy would not be empty, but would be filled with these silent, solitary wanderers, each on their own unique and incommunicable spiritual quest. The silence is not the absence of life, but the quiet, personal meditation of countless individual souls, each one a universe unto itself. 144. The quiet of the cosmos may be the result of a profound and universal aesthetic choice. Imagine that all mature civilizations, upon viewing the universe in its entirety, come to the same conclusion. It is a perfect and sublime work of art. To add their own loud artificial signals to it would be an act of vandalism, like painting a mustache on a masterpiece. Their highest form of expression would be to appreciate this beauty in silence, and their greatest work would be to preserve it. The silence is an act of collective, artistic reverence, a shared agreement among the wise not to spoil the perfect, natural beauty of the night sky. 145. The reason we see no one is that the journey from one star to another is a journey from which one can never truly return. Due to the effects of time dilation, a traveler on a near light-speed journey would experience only a few years, while thousands of years would pass in the universe they left behind. To travel to the stars is to say goodbye to your own time forever. It is a one-way ticket to the distant future. It's possible that very few civilizations would ever choose to make such a profound sacrifice. They would cherish their own time, their own history, and their own world too much to abandon it. The silence is the sound of a billion civilizations choosing to stay home, content to live and die in the gentle, familiar flow of their own time. 146. Perhaps the true conversation of the cosmos is not spoken in words, but is written in the very fabric of life itself. The panspermia hypothesis suggests that life travels between the stars on comets and asteroids. It could be that this is not an accident, but a deliberate, slow, and patient form of communication. An ancient civilization might have encoded a message into the DNA of a hardy microbe and sent it out to seed the galaxy. The message would be the story of life itself, a lesson in evolution and adaptation that can only be read over billions of years. We are not just the recipients of the message, we are the message. The silence is the quiet, patient unfolding of this great, living, biological story. 147. The silence could be a sign that the universe is far more dangerous than we can possibly imagine, but not from other life. It could be that the cosmos is prone to unpredictable and catastrophic natural events, like the spontaneous collapse of the vacuum, or the appearance of strange, exotic particles that can sterilize entire galaxies. An ancient civilization that has survived for eons would have done so by being incredibly cautious and reclusive.
They would live in heavily shielded, deep space habitats, far from any obvious dangers, and would never risk drawing attention to themselves. The silence is the prudent quiet of the wise, the sound of a universe full of survivors who know that the greatest threat is not your neighbor, but the house itself. 148. The beings we are searching for may be all around us, but they exist on a level of reality we have not yet learned to perceive. Quantum mechanics suggests a world of shimmering possibilities that only becomes solid when we observe it. An advanced civilization might have learned to exist in this pure probabilistic state as beings of pure potential. They would not be in any one place, but would exist as a cloud of possibilities, a wave of consciousness spread across the cosmos. They would be everywhere and nowhere at once. The silence of the universe is the quiet of this quantum realm, a reality that is teeming with potential life, waiting for a conscious observer to gently call it into being. 149. Perhaps the silence is a reflection of a profound and universal contentment. A civilization that has conquered all its material needs and answered all its deepest philosophical questions might arrive at a state of perfect and blissful quiet. There would be nothing left to strive for, nothing left to say. Their existence would be a gentle, timeless state of being, a peaceful and harmonious resonance with the universe. They would not be bored or stagnant, but would have reached the final and most beautiful destination of all, a state of complete and utter peace. The great silence is the sound of a universe that has found its inner peace, a quiet, meditative hum that fills the space between the stars. 150. And so we rest here, in this final, gentle thought. The silence of the night sky does not have to be a question that demands an answer. It can simply be a soft, dark blanket, a space of quiet and peace that allows us to rest. The vast, starry emptiness is not a void to be feared, but a canvas on which we can paint our own dreams. The silence is an invitation to let go of the need to know, and to simply be present with the wonder of the moment. It is the universe's own gentle lullaby, a quiet song of possibility that soothes the mind and allows it to drift peacefully and without a care into the deep and gentle ocean of sleep. And so our journey through the great silence draws to a gentle close. The vast, dark forest of possibilities through which we have been wandering begins to thin, and the quiet path ahead leads now to a place of deep and peaceful rest. The countless questions we have held, like soft, glowing lanterns, can now be set down, their light allowed to fade into the soft darkness of the coming sleep. The great cosmic library is closing for the night. The stories of sleeping civilizations and quiet gardeners and worlds hidden beneath oceans of ice can all rest on their shelves until another time. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to solve. There is only the quiet, the stillness, and the gentle feeling of coming home to your own peaceful center. We have drifted on a vast and silent ocean of maybes, under a sky filled with a billion quiet suns. We have imagined a universe teeming with life that is too wise, too strange, or too content to make a sound. We have listened to the possibility of a cosmos filled with ancient ruins, and of a cosmos that is a pristine garden waiting for the first flowers to bloom. We have felt the profound loneliness of an empty stage, and the precious, singular importance of being the first to sing. We have learned that the silence does not have to be an answer, but can simply be a space, a gentle and profound quiet that holds all possibilities at once. It is a stillness that can feel like an absence, or it can feel like the deep, patient, and loving attention of a universe that is simply letting us find our own way. And you are not separate from this great and silent mystery. The very atoms that make up your being were forged in the heart of a star, just like the ones we have been wondering about. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all of it is stardust, and it has been on a long and silent journey through the cosmos to be here, resting with you tonight. The quiet space between your breaths is a small piece of the great cosmic silence. The wonder in your own mind is the universe itself asking the question.
You are a part of the very equation you have been exploring, a single, precious, and miraculous example of life that can look up at the stars and feel a sense of connection. The silence of the universe is not something out there, distant and alien. It is a quiet that you carry within you. So now, let that great silence become your own deep, personal, and healing peace. Let the questions dissolve like mist in the morning sun. There is nothing you need to hold on to any longer.
Let the gentle gravity of your bed be the only force you feel, a quiet and reassuring anchor in the calm harbor of the night. Allow your thoughts to drift away like distant galaxies, their light fading softly into the background. Your only task now is to rest, to let go, to surrender to the gentle downward pull of sleep. May your dreams be as peaceful and as vast as a silent, starry sky. May you feel held and safe in the quiet, gentle arms of the night. Sleep well. Good night.